What's going on, Minnesota Viking fans? Welcome to the Purple People Podcast. My name is Kyle Smith. It is Tuesday, June 29th, 2021, and we are inching closer to the NFL season. I'm excited about it. And you know who else is excited about it? Kyle West. He's very
I
excited.
am excited for it. We are in that drought where there's not really football related anything going on right now. And that makes it tough, man. I need my fix. I need my football fix. But we're getting close to what? Isn't training camp coming up soon?
You must not spend a lot of time on Twitter there, Mr. West, because, boy, the NFL conversations on there are wild.
Oh, I do, but I want, I'm talking games. We need games, man. That's what I'm ready for.
Yeah. Games? It's the NBA playoffs, man. The finals are right around the corner.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's that cheap drug. You want the good stuff.
Right.
And the Lynx aren't looking to be very dominant this year either, so hopefully Minnesota sports can make a little bit of a comeback because the Twins were kind of yucky and
rough.
Timberwolves weren't looking too good. They didn't get their draft pick at the lottery, and Minnesota sports not looking so good recently.
Well, I think Minnesota has a pretty bright future. We're looking good, I think.
I didn't give Adam Carlson his proper introduction. We got the whole crew here today. If you guys are listening on a podcast later or you're just doing it audibly and not watching on YouTube, the whole crew is here. We're excited to be here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Xavier Woods this week because he's drawing a lot of buzz, but we have everything to talk about today from a new Ring of Honor member, some contract extensions, and what the hell are the Vikings going to do with this extra $14 million? We shall see, but I want to first
emergency
go into
money.
Yeah, I mean, you could use it for emergency funds. I don't know if they're going to extend Harrison Smith or Brian O'Neill, but we can go into that. If you go over to the VikingAge.com, where our own Adam Carlson writes and works, there's another great writer there named Adam Patrick, and he covered a story on this almost a day ago. Harrison Smith sounds like he wants to retire with the Vikings. Now, this is a little bit, I don't want to say overblown, but he did say, hey, I would like to stay in Minnesota. And it's a quotation here for Harrison Smith. I've been here going on 10 seasons. I would love to be here in the future. Going to look at these things and see what we can do. That's about it right now. I don't know, man. It's very hard for a player to stay with one team in this day and age of free agency and trades and contract talks and the leverage players have. But I'm not going to hold out to say it's impossible with a guy like Harrison Smith.
I love that he wants to stay in Minnesota. That's great. We want all our players, all of our star players to say, hey, I want to retire in Minnesota. As leverage, that has to be the stupidest shit you could ever say to a team because Rick Spielman somewhere has to be like, oh, pay cut. We're going to pay cut the shit out of you now. I don't know why would you say that?
You can say whatever you want in front of the media. It's what you say behind those closed doors. That's what matters. And let's be honest here, too. The player has almost nothing to do with getting that salary. The agents, they're going to be the ones milking this for everything they can. And the thing is I don't think that Harrison Smith is going to be one of those players that's going to demand a max contract throughout his whole career. I think that he is more than happy to be paid a fair wage based on his position and playing, and he won't be seeking a premium as well as staying in Minnesota. So, honestly, I think that this could work out in favor of both parties, but it would take a little bit of give each way like we saw in the last years with Chad Greenway. And Greenway, again, is another one of those unselfish type players that knew that he could probably hold out for a little bit more, and his agents probably knew that he could hold out for a little bit more, but he made the sacrifice to stay in Minnesota, and honestly, it worked out best for everybody.
I would have hated to see Chad on some other team. That would have sucked.
But you know what would have happened? He would have been a linebacker for the Lions or the Packers for 1 year, and it would have been like, damn it.
Yeah.
Why?
He would have went to
Why did it have to go there?
He would have went to like St. Louis and been like a backup linebacker that wouldn't have seen the
that
field.
was his era before the Rams moved to LA. That's true.
Right.
What's up, Viking Jerome? Thanks for commenting here. Let us know what you want to talk about. We'll answer it or kind of go that direction. But I'm with you. I think just from what I've noticed from this player staying on this team for the 10 years I've been hardcore a Viking fan, I think if Harrison Smith, and this is just my personal opinion, as long as he doesn't get lowballed, I think to Adam's point, I think if he gets a fair offer, he'll stay. I think one of the biggest reasons is Coach Zimmer, and he kind of lets him do whatever the hell he wants out there because he knows he can trust him. And until that ability and capability physically falls off, I don't see why he wouldn't stay. The Vikings need him. And, we've had rotations in there with Anthony Harris and Anderson Dejo, but the constant at the safety position has been Harrison Smith for a decade. So I would love to see this happen. That would be amazing.
Harrison Smith has long since been that fix-it player for, and this goes back to when Leslie Frazier was running the defense, and especially Mike Zimmer's defense. It's like, hey, run support, bring up Harrison Smith. You need him back in coverage, Harrison Smith. Like, where do you need him on the field? Plug and play him, and he will make a play for you when you need him. That's been his role with this team.
Yeah, as of the last, however many years, if you had to pick a current Viking that's your favorite, I wouldn't be surprised to hear a lot of fans say that it would be him just for the longevity and there's no off-the-field drama. He's a good dude. He's very quiet. He just comes to work. He's very easy to like. So,
and he's got those beautiful eyes.
Yeah, he's a handsome man as well.
There's a lot of women on that Twitter as well as men and any individual, really, that thinks he's quite dreamy with not so much with the hair. Back in his old Notre Dame hair days, they prefer it a little more clean shaven.
This is funny. Viking Jerome is he lives around San Francisco, and he says he can't wait for them to play the 49ers in week 12. He doesn't like the fan base of the 49ers. That's funny. I wouldn't expect it for that team. I don't know. That's fun that you mentioned that, though, just to kind of get a feel for someone who actually lives there. I would expect it from like the Raider fan base.
They're probably a lot like the Cowboys fan base. Oh, remember when we were relevant in the 90s? Oh, but the 90s. Oh, the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys haven't noticed, the San Diego fan base has been stepping up to Minnesota quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. So that rivalry there is ramping up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually going to that game in November. I'm really excited about it. So I'm hoping that Justin Jefferson has a career day there just to shut people up.
And yes, I'm still going to call him San Diego.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say anything. Just let it happen. No, yeah. Adam's referring to a Twitter battle. I'm not sure if it was from a Charger fan or the Chargers Twitter page, but I know the Vikings' actual Twitter page chimed in, which is great. Whoever runs that social media.
They had to have just gotten someone newer on social media over the last week or so, because they've started stepping in and they are being kind of vicious.
Yeah, the comparison here is the Chargers' Keenan Allen, who's a great wide receiver, one of the best in the league, comparing him to Justin Jefferson. And I don't know why exactly that rooted from where. I don't know where it started, but basically it's Keenan Allen's a better receiver than Justin Jefferson. And the dynamic before we can actually analyze this is if we have two players at the same time who are the same age, I think it's a lot more fair unless we have the tape going on. There's a shift there because Keenan Allen's been in the league for a while. So if you want to compare it right now, of course, I think a lot of people would rather have Justin Jefferson for youth and potential and all that stuff. But I don't think they're worlds apart. And I don't really think that was really smart on that page to compare them to, because it's not like Justin Jefferson's a bum. He's the rookie Pepsi. Well, he should have been the rookie of the year, but he broke the rookie.
They're getting more into that. There's a little bit more of what feeds into that.
What's that?
The rookie of the year situation.
Yeah, and breaking a rookie receiving record. I mean, just to echo the point, he's not a bum, so I don't really know why.
But Herbert broke rookie quarterback records. I mean, you can't really pick and choose what records you feel are more important. But let's be honest here. Quarterbacks get the love in the NFL. That's where it's always going to be.
Yeah, we talked about that when it came out. We thought that Justin Jefferson should have won it, and I'll echo that point one more time as to why. because yes, the quarterback position is more important than the wide receiver position. I think we could all agree on that. We have our opinions on it, the little asterisks to go beside it. But when you're graded as the number 2 overall receiver, I think PFF graded him right behind Devontae Adams last year. Justin Herbert was not the number 2 quarterback last year. So I find that a little funny. It's like, oh, he broke all these records. Like, yeah, it's a passing league now. I can go into that conversation to try to angle it towards Justin Jefferson, but I'm not really sure why this Charger page decided to randomly pick on Justin Jefferson. I'm not really sure. It's kind of weird. I want to know the
Justin Jefferson's been getting a lot of attention. I've been seeing a lot of new fantasy football magazines coming out, and they're asking who this year's Justin Jefferson is going to be. And to be honest, Justin Jefferson, he just won an award for Best Touchdown Celebration Dance. So that's something too. I mean, he's getting a lot of media attention at a really early stage in his career from a smaller market team. And sometimes that'll go to your head and sometimes it won't. I think that's part of what happened with Stephon Diggs, is that he got that
what happened with Diggs.
Major media attention when he was a big fish in a small pond in Minnesota, and he wasn't really rooted, and he wanted to get something a little bit bigger. And, going to New York, that will definitely do it. I mean, he is playing on the only team that plays pro football in New York.
That's a good point. That's a good. Adam's comedy is above everyone else's. You guys need to get on his level.
We're such an amazing show. We're such an amazing show.
Dumpster Fire State, New Jersey. Ugh.
Yeah, we referenced
awful place.
We referenced San
Diego.
It's so weird
because if you go under that bridge, as soon as you go under that underpass, and you go from New York to New Jersey, you can feel yourself just getting that state line. I don't know what I apologize to any listeners in New Jersey, but I don't know what it is. Sucks. But I just get that terrible feeling every time I cross that state border.
They call it the armpit of America for a reason. I live there very closely. Nothing to brag home about. And you know what? I blame it solely on the smell on the highway, the Jersey Turnpike. I hate it. And also the roads there. They're not very nice. You guys need to fix those. Maybe I'll reconsider if I visit and those have changed, but now that we're done poo-pooing on the state of New Jersey in this episode. Oh, that's great.
That's a thumbs down or 2 on YouTube.
Oh, yeah. We'll get some comments.
So let's talk about that $14 million that the Vikings have there, because we have hinted in some episodes prior about like D.D. Westbrook or Melvin Ingram. From what I heard on a Vikings podcast this morning that I was listening to, the 90-man roster for now is set. So unless they're going to cut someone to bring someone else in, I think this is pretty much the pool they're going to be picking out of to make the 53. So with that money aside, the guys that were up, we were talking about Harrison Smith just now, but what about right tackle Brian O'Neill? That is the question going forward. That's the next topic I wanted to talk about. It's time to give him an extension, yes or no?
Absolutely.
I think he's pretty solid at that position. The Vikings, I mean, you guys can correct me. You guys have more Viking knowledge than I do. And been a fan of the team longer, but I can't remember the last stand-up, out-of-this-world offensive lineman like a Ronnie Stanley right now for the Ravens that was on the Vikings team. But we've had these very respectable, very serviceable guys and shoring up the tackle position. I mean, I love that kid. I love him a lot. He's quiet and he does his job. And that's been a topic I've seen on Twitter and Facebook the last couple of days. So Brian O'Neill is up and he should be getting talks maybe after this year to get a long-term deal. And I think it's a good thing.
Matt Burke was probably the last of the real solid, you can count on him. I guess we had Phil Loadholt.
Yeah, I'd go Phil.
Phil, Matt Burke, Phil Loadholt.
For a tackle, anyway. I mean,
yeah,
there's some interior linemen that didn't get the love they deserved over their time in Minnesota,
right.
But none of them, I would say, are superstars at their position. They were just very good players who weren't appreciated as much as they should have been. But The way I see it is you want to roll into a season and you want to have a good $7 or $8 million during the season, just to be able to make adjustments, emergency money. So maybe they can throw around a little bit of money. And why not use that on an extension for Brian O'Neill now, so they can lay down that money and be ready for next season when they'll have a full season of seeing how Danielle Hunter plays when he returns under their belts, and maybe a little extra cap space to throw at him, because if he performs well this year, he could get an out of this world contract.
Will it be with
rightfully
Minnesota?
so?
If they have the money, and if they go around and if they throw $6-7 million at a defensive end that isn't much better than one of the ones that they currently have on their roster, is that worth it? I don't think so.
That's a tough dynamic. Thinking about it's all such a weird story because of the what if with the injury, but yeah, Danielle Hunter could get a superstar contract if he has. I'll say it now. It doesn't have to be 15, 16, 17 sacks. If he has double-digit sacks this year, he's back. He's good.
Yeah.
And I think that's worthy enough to show you, hey, I'm making an impact. I'm healthy. Obviously, the health is the biggest concern, but the Vikings are good about that. I mean, they extended him early when a lot of people – we talked about it on the show when a lot of people were like, what the hell are you giving this guy an extension for? He's a third round.
Who the hell's Danielle Hunter?
Yeah, who is this guy?
Yeah.
They're very good about paying people that they are very happy to have on the team. I mean, look at Kirk Cousins. Not to poo-poo on him, but they were like, hey, this is our guy. He does what we ask him to do. He performs at the level we want him to perform at. Here's a ton of money. And I don't see that straying away from Danielle Hunter, because this was so paramount in getting situated for going forward and kind of pushing that direction to something positive. Because I imagine if the Vikings hadn't stood their heels in the ground and said, hey, we don't know, we want you to take a pay cut now, would not have went the way that we all like it and the where it is now, that we're happy, and he's happy too, which is great.
Yeah, so all the Vikings fans on Twitter, social media, Facebook, wherever they might be, that want the Vikings to dive into free agency and throw all their money at Larry Fitzgerald and Ingram and D.D. Westbrook and just empty out the bank and have scraps left for free agency, so they got to sign bargain basement players if someone gets hurt. This might not be a good idea, because if you go and spend that money all willy-nilly, there's a good chance that you might not be able to afford an extension for a player like Brian O'Neill or Danielle Hunter. And a one-year rental on a player that isn't going to elevate your team to the level that these guys are going to, I just think that it'd be foolish to spend that money on a short-term thing unless they really, really feel like this player can make a huge difference this season. And I don't see that free agent that is worth that amount of money being out there at this moment.
I think you got to play it smart and wait until we get into camp, wait into some preseason games and see who's performing. Maybe there's a guy who's not living up to expectations. Okay, we can switch him out and bring someone else in, or heaven forbid injury. Injuries always happen. You have to be prepared for that. So I think I feel pretty set with this team. I think the roster they got in place is a good one to bring into camp, and let's see what happens and shake it out. I don't think there's any rush to go out and, we're going to sign Richard Sherman and bring him in, because he's a name I recognize from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And Larry Fitzgerald, he was productive 10 years ago. Let's bring him in. Like, I don't quite think we need to do that just yet or ever. Probably never.
Sunday morning, I wrote a piece that got published over on the Viking Age, and it showed 8 battles that are up in Minnesota for training camp. 8 positions that are up based on competition. To me, that's a lot of positions that are going to be wide open and will have to be fought hard for. And several of those positions are going to players that are probably either going to be inexperienced or not really reaching the level of talent that you'd hope they would. But at this point in free agency, and considering the road the Vikings have, they have a lot of their key players locked down for a couple years now. Mm-hmm. And not being able to put pieces in next to them would be an absolute shame. So what I'm saying is not to leverage a season on one singular investment right now. They've already done that by bringing in a lot of players. We've seen what happens when you bring in and just sell all out. I love what the Rams tried to do, but they came up short, and now they're kind of paying the price a little bit because they're going to be crunched for money, and they're still going to be a good team, don't get me wrong. But that year that they pushed all their chips in, and they came up short, and now they got to pay for that. And all those free agents that they have are going to end up going some of the other places, or they won't be able to bring in anybody else and secure position for younger players going forward. It's an absolute mess the way some of these teams handle their salary cap situations as well as their contracts. And yeah, Minnesota is very, very good at that. But there will get to be a point where you just can't stretch those dollars very much further. And Minnesota's tapped a lot of their resources as far as their players on longer-term contracts and pushing the money down the road. And I don't know how much more of that you really want to do.
Yeah. And they've parted ways in the offseason with your Kyle Rudolphs and freed up some cap space that way. And like you said, they've done extensions, and they've played the salary cap really tight and really well to keep this team. They've had the ability to go out and to sign a Patrick Peterson to bring him into Minnesota. It's on a 1-year deal, but they've been able to make some moves. And I feel like we have a good mix of veterans and young talent on this team right now. And I think that that's the sweet spot that you want to be in, where you can be competitive and compete and try to win. You've got your veteran presence, but you've got your key contributors you're going to be your younger players on your cheaper contracts. That helps out quite a bit.
It's true.
I also like this season with the dynamic of the cap and how it's going to get bigger, but it's kind of a stall and a stalemate right now because of COVID. Next year, there's a lot of guys with 1-year deals in this team, right? Patrick Peterson, Sheldon Richardson, Xavier Woods, who we're going to talk about later in the show. I'm going to say at least one of those guys, probably two of them if you had to ask me personally. They're going to make Minnesota their home for another contract, multiple years. So talking about money and how the Vikings work stuff out, I'm very excited to see how they do it now. And would you like to see them add someone like we had mentioned before, Melvin Ingram, Dede Westbrook, another guard? Who knows? Sure. But if it helps the future out, I think with the way the roster's constructed right now, you're in a good, safe spot to have a little bit of reserve cash to do with it what you will. Adam, you brought up a great point earlier, and I love it, and had to echo the praise for that, is if they can throw a little of that extra money now at Danielle Hunter or roll it into next year, however that works, however the money wizards do their thing for this team, that would be incredible, because we're all anticipating him coming back to form and then probably getting the Brinks truck backed up to his porch.
Yeah, and even if they don't, Minnesota will have to be competitive next year, because there are going to be a lot of teams that have a lot of money available as far as their salary cap.
Yep.
And Minnesota will not be one of them.
I wanted to answer this question. Viking Jerome, you're the only person asking questions right now, man, so we're going to get to them. Who wins the quarterback 2 and 3 spot? I looked around on ESPN. I'm on OurLads.com, and right now, for the life of me, I can't see this being. ESPN said Nate Stanley was above Jake Browning. I don't believe that, to save my life. But right now, obviously, Kirk would be the starter. They've got Kellen Mond.
Whoa, bold statement. Hold on.
I know, really? Crazy, right? Kellen Mond's not immediately quarterback 1 here. Jake Browning 3 and Nate Stanley 4, which automatically this is an upgrade to not having
it's kind of sad that an unproven first-year quarterback has us all kind of more comfortable than the backup quarterback that was on a Super Bowl roster.
That's crazy. Now, I'm not sure the Vikings aren't going to put this official depth chart out now.
No.
They'll do that a little bit later, but we're going based off of a couple websites here. Jake Browning has some experience. Nate Stanley's only been with the team 1 year, and from everything that we heard last year, it was nothing impressive to write home about. Sorry, Kyle. Kellen Mond's right where he should be. Quarterback number 2.
Iowa football's known for our defense. We're not known for quarterback
for your amazing quarterbacks.
Yeah.
When we were doing our 53-man projections over here for the last couple of years, I swear that every year I was like, this will be the year the Vikings finally keep 2 quarterbacks. Now, the last 2 years, that's been true. So I don't think that's going to change. I think that the 53-man roster is only going to have Kirk Cousins and Kellen Mond, and then we're going to see the expanded practice squad keep at least one of those quarterbacks that you mentioned that they want to develop. And honestly, between the 2 of them, it could probably be a coin flip.
Yeah, it's interesting. You had me looking at the other spots on the roster here. And this is a good little segue. I want to talk about a couple more Viking Age articles we have here, because this is, I don't know. This is a cool kind of look into the future of, okay, what's going to happen? Because we can all make our predictions, but I'm oh, hey, a Twitch. Is this a bot here? Formal Foundation? Hello.
No. Hi, how's it going on?
Thanks for watching. So you have right defensive end Danielle Hunter. Opposite the starter right now should be Stephen Weatherly with the experience. And we've got Jalen Holmes behind Danielle Hunter, Patrick Jones behind Stephen Weatherly, Janarius Robinson on the Stephen Weatherly side, and then Blake Lynch. And then we go down to the Jordan Brailfurs and the Kenny Willocks. So it'll be interesting to see. There's an article written. It's Dean Jones. I thought that was another Adam Patrick article. And it was 5 players facing a make-or-break training camp in 2021. And I thought for sure the first person they would mention is Stephen Weatherly.
Chad Beebe.
Chad Beebe's on there. No, he's not. BC Johnson's on here.
Yeah, that's fair. I forgot about him.
Dakota Dozier is here, which we kind of figured. Sheldon Richardson's on there.
I actually like all those guys for depth to stay. So if I had written that article, they probably would not be on there.
This is not anything negative at all towards Dean. I think all guys you'll see on the roster. Amir Abdullah, Sheldon Richardson, he came in on a really cheap deal. He's great for depth. Stephen Weatherly, he's my only outlier of maybe. But if they don't sign another defensive end, I mean, Stephen Weatherly's definitely going to be on this team.
I'd have to look at Weatherly's contract to see what's guaranteed on it.
Let's look that up.
But otherwise, I don't know. As I've said before on the show, I like a lot of the competition and depth the Vikings have at defensive end. The problem is right now is that Danielle Hunter is that standout star, and nobody is really anywhere near that level on the other side. So it's hard to know who's going to be able to step up and be that pass rusher opposite him. Now, the good thing is that individual is likely to get a lot of one-on-one time. The double teams are likely to go Danielle Hunter's way, or even in the middle to try to slow down those 2 big fellas and get them moved out of the way. So it's going to be fun to watch this defensive line, especially after how ineffective the defensive line was last year.
Stephen Weatherly's contract is $2.5 million. Signing bonus $500,000. Average salary $2.5 million. Guaranteed at signing, and the only total guarantees is $500,000, and that's
that ain't bad.
That's when he signed. So yeah, that's a very good deal for the Vikings. If that's how it falls, I don't see that being an issue. Like Adam was saying, you want to develop the guys like Patrick Jones and what's the other guy's name that's here? Janarius Robinson. Really excited to see what he does.
Yeah.
I don't want to throw those guys to the fire just yet, but especially the kid from Florida State. Good Lord, there's a lot of buzz about him and how good he could be. Already flashing a little bit. So Stephen Weatherly.
Those highly athletic defensive ends, if you can watch them and really enjoy watching them play, like even DJ Wanham. Wanham has a lot of fans really love Wanham. And he had some flash plays where he wasn't really covered very well or was able to make a player miss and have a sack or a pressure that made a play. And honestly, as I've said before, I don't think he's at the point where you can say he's head and shoulders above anyone else. So this competition defensive end, it's, in my opinion, wide open. Right now, I guess, like I wrote in my article around the Viking Age, my guess right now is that if they were to pencil in a starter, it would be Jalen Holmes, since he was starting last year at when, everything else was going to poop and Ngakoue ended up getting shipped out. And Holmes had some pressures, didn't get the sack numbers that I guess the team really wanted, but man, it's going to be a season where a lot of players have to fight, and the shortened preseason, the only 3 games, that doesn't leave you a lot of opportunity against other competition to prove yourself. So this is going to be a lot more based on what they do in practices, the joint practices, and we'll see how that works from there, because these guys got to make a name for themselves in a short period of time, and it's going to be tough.
Viking Jerome asks, can the Vikings please settle on the punter and kicker this season? I mean, they're going to settle. Someone is going to be a punter and a kicker for this team. Now, are you going to be happy with it? I would say probably not.
The good news is that it looks like punter has been figured out.
The good news is that it can't be any worse than some of the shit we've had to put up with previously.
Because it looked right now, I believe Britton Colquitt is the only punter on the roster. I believe they cut that Zach Van Gant, I think his name was, or something like that.
Yeah, they cut him for Shelton Richardson.
So he'll be the only one there. But they still have competition at kicker, long snapper, punt returner, kick returner, and even though I didn't include it in my article, I think gunner could be up for grabs if Dan Chisna,
Yeah.
if that guy isn't who they want him to be.
Yeah, Britton Colquitt's the only punter on the roster, so that's good.
Hey, Cliff.
So at least we have that answer. The kicker situation, that's something to be a little bit more concerned about.
Right now, it's
Finkel
Greg
or
Joseph.
Einhorn, Adam. Finkel or Einhorn.
The laces were in. Greg Joseph is listed as the starting kicker right now, and then rookie. They're showing all these in green on ourlads.com. Riley Patterson is there for competition. So
right.
Yeah. It's not going to blow you away. We don't have the best kicking situation in the league, but we have a good punter. Hopefully long snapper is good. Andrew DePaula.
Yeah. And he did good at the end of last season. I thought he did well enough to where he should be a favorite heading into camp and heading into the preseason stuff. So,
hey, what happened to that long snapper that we drafted?
Which one? The guy in the Air Force?
Yeah, the Air Force guy.
Yeah, I don't think he's with the team anymore.
No,
I don't. Seriously, I don't remember what happened to him.
I think he actually got called up. I think he got commissioned.
Oh, did he?
I'm not sure. I know that he wasn't.
Memory serves me correctly. I'll look into that.
Very great either.
Right. Well, the good news is right now the punt returner and kick returner is KJ Osborne, which is Adam Carlson's favorite player on the Vikings. So
I really wanted him to be good. In college he was fairly good at returning punts. I don't know what happened there, but again, another situation like I said in my article over there, that this should be up for grabs. At least the punt returner, because it sounds like the Vikings already want that rookie running back to handle kickoffs. That's the way it's sounding.
You're absolutely right. Right now, we're looking for a punt returner behind KJ Osborne, and he's listed at kick returner as well. For punt returns, behind him is Chad Beebe. For kick returns, it's going to be a battle between running back out of the third round, Kene Ngagwu, and then ISM Amir Smith-Martet. So,
yeah, I noticed. I looked at that, and they completely dismissed the idea of Amir Abdullah returning as kickoffs, and I don't like that idea. I think he should still be included among the competition because I like when he takes touchbacks.
I was waiting for you to say, I don't know why I thought you were going to say, I like his return ability. I should have known that you were going to say, I like that he takes touchbacks like the smart player would. Oh, that's
Just
funny.
Take the yardage. If they're going to give it to you.
It'll be a fun competition to watch, though.
It's not as exciting. I get it. Fans want them to take it out of the end zone and make these big spark plays. And we've been kind of spoiled over the years with, Cordero Patterson and Percy Harvin and these great explosive kickoff return artists. And it's not as easy as the Vikings make it look to find a player that electric.
Cliff is over here in the comments trying to kill Patrick Peterson.
I was just thinking that. I was like, if this was 10 years
special
ago,
teams. Yeah.
Cliff, if this was 10 years ago, I would be right there with you. But Old Man River is not going to be on special teams anymore. Not for that price tag and that value.
No, not when he's on a one-year deal either, trying to prove his worth as a cornerback.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm just glad to have him on the team. And we all agree, Osborne was not that great last year. Now, he was a rookie last year. It was a weird year. I'm not willing to write him off just
And then
yet.
when they benched him for BB wasn't good either.
All the sad stories today here on the podcast.
Well, when we start talking about special teams were sad. That was one sad unit.
They were not fun. They were not fun last year.
If they or the defense could have held their own a little bit better, this team could have had several more wins. And it's not like they were far from making the playoffs. If they could have won one game down that last stretch, there's a good chance that they could have had a postseason slot. Would they made a run in the playoffs? Probably not. But still, I mean, it's the difference between a playoff or not, whether or not Chad Beebe hauls in a punt or muffs it,
Mm-hmm.
Well, I named this episode, transitioning to the main topic of the show. I named this episode after Viking safety Xavier Woods, former Dallas Cowboy. I keep forgetting that he's a 6th-round pick from 2017. There's an article here from SI. I just wanted to read up a little bit and let you guys hear what the buzz is about this guy. So 2017 6th-round pick for the Cowboys, and those years leading up to now, first 3 years, 5 interceptions, 17 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles. And the interesting note here is he's never had a PFF grade below 70 until last year. That version of him would have been a sizable upgrade from Anthony Harris's performance last season, according to Fan Nation and SI. But this is the thing that kind of jumped out at me because you don't hear this very often from our coach, kind of like Bill Belichick giving praise. But Mike Zimmer said, and I quote, "I've been really impressed with him up to this point. Those two guys working together have done a really good job." So Harrison Smith and Xavier Woods could bring back the safety duo that the Vikings need. Not that Anthony Harris was a wash or a bum or anything. I really enjoyed having him as a Viking for the last 3 years. But, hey, this could be a really team-friendly and what's the word I'm looking for? A valuable signing for the team. I'm very excited to see what he does. And I hope that he's one of those that I mentioned about 10 minutes ago that has that 1-year deal and it turns up into a contract next year where he's with the team for a while.
Yeah, I'd written earlier that Xavier Woods was one of those players that could have been a very sneaky signing for the Vikings to be able to bring in and play defense. That Dallas Cowboys defense that he was a part of for several years there, they were not a good unit. There was not a lot of support there. They had to draft some players that were developing as he was playing there. And now he gets to come over and he gets to play on a team that's got a great blend of experience and young talent and some coaches that really love to do interesting and creative things with their defensive backs. And he seems to really want to embrace that role, because from what I've been reading is that he loves to get to practice early, stick around late, absorb everything he can. And honestly, this is something that I've heard previously to his arrival in Minnesota, the complete opposite about him. So maybe the shift from Dallas to Minnesota brought out this newer, more creative, excited version of him. Or maybe it was just some other people just kind of poo-pooing on him since he's no longer a Dallas Cowboy, because you get some of that as well. But overall,
it's great too. Patrick Peterson hosts a podcast, or he's on a podcast called All Things Covered, and his co-host Brian McFadden here. I've listened to a couple of their episodes. It's in this SI article. Patrick Peterson said he's been really good for the team as well. He calls him a seasoned vet and says he's always going to be where he needs to be. So I like that. I like that a lot. If you're getting praise from Patrick Peterson, hey, there's not really much higher you can get. I really like to look at the secondary. Try not to get ahead of myself. Try not to set expectations too high. But compared to what it was last year, I think it's going to fit right into where we all here at the Purple People Podcast think that the secondary is going to be right where we hope it's going to be compared to how bad it was last season.
We joke after the historically bad Mike Zimmer defense, but I do like the way he really did make it a point of emphasis to say, not again. We're going to try to fix this issue and this issue and this issue, and here are these veterans that we're going to bring in to try to bolster it because they can help.
3 veteran corners bringing them in. That's crazy.
Yeah.
On top
I've seen a list.
I've
seen a list I was reading that had Mike Zimmer on the top of the. He wasn't at the top, but he was near the top of coaches on the hot seat for this coming season, and I still don't agree with that.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think they're doing the best thing they know how to do for this particular team, Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer. I think, unfortunately, we've had these dark conversations where I don't think this team is ready to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if this coach could take him there. Love him to death. I hope he does and proves me wrong, but for the way that they constructed this team, they drive that car that they have built pretty well for the most part. And it just shows last year, just to go off on a little tangent, it just shows how hard it is to consistently be great. You know, you have a drop-off in 4 or 5 players last year. That was it. 4 or 5 players, and the team looked completely different. They were behind. COVID obviously didn't help, but they were
losing
just
both starting corners. Just yuck.
Yeah, and signing guys off the street. I mean, he was doing the best that he could with what he had. So it could have been a lot worse, to be honest with you. Viking Jerome, sorry, I didn't mean to ignore your thing. Is Chad Beebe winning a spot this season? Yes, he will absolutely be on the team.
Yeah, he'll be there.
Past Jefferson and Thielen, all those wide receiver spots, whether it be 4, 5, or 6, however many they keep, he's going to be one of them.
He'll be at least number 4.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair.
If not 5. I mean, there's a chance the youngster, the rookie, will come up and snag a spot. And maybe BC, since he was a starter last year at the beginning of the season, maybe they like him a lot and BB ends up being a number 5. But he'll make the roster, absolutely.
Cliff Tang comes in with a bold prediction. He says the Vikings need to be a top 3 defense this year. No excuses.
They should be a top 10. I don't think that's all that bold. I think you look at the pieces they've put together and the coach, and you say expectations should be top 10. I think you get into top 5 is where you're into bold territory.
Right. I'm with you on that too. I think 3, the only reason I don't agree with Cliff is going from where they were last year, which was like overall like 27th, to go from 27th to 3rd is going to be really hard.
That's
and I think
insane.
That's for any team, and even for the Patriots, who weren't that good last year. They always.
But look at the personnel. How many different players from last year's starting unit are starting this year? Because you've got, from the defensive line, it's going to be 3 new starters.
Mm-hmm.
If all four, right?
Yeah, Daniil didn't play, so yeah, it'd be all four. Weatherly wasn't on the team. We didn't have Tomlinson or Pierce. Hunter's back, so your front four is completely different and upgraded. We can all agree that it's not just a paper thing. These players are better. Yeah. Minus maybe I think Yannick Ngakoue is probably better than Stephen Weatherly. I wouldn't say by like worlds apart, but I think that would be the only one. The D line is all new and much better than last year.
Three new faces in the secondary.
Yeah. Then you got
Eric Hendricks was lost at the end of last year as well.
Mm-hmm. Anthony Barr was out for the year with the torn pec.
Especially if you can.
This defense was either all new faces or players returning from injuries. And the end of last year, when they were trying so hard to get a win, to get a playoff spot, they were doing so based on heart alone. Because let's be absolutely honest with each other here. That team lacked talent at that point.
Yeah,
it wasn't this team wanted it more, that team wanted it more. The Vikings wanted it. They wanted it really bad. But they just didn't have the personnel to match up against these other squads.
I was talking about that dreaded Alvin Kamara 6-touchdown game last night. It was one of the worst games I've ever had to watch. But you're right. It wasn't for a lack of effort. They were outclassed with personnel.
Absolutely. Watching our interior defensive linemen get pushed 6 and 7 years off the ball. I was going to say yards, but years is appropriate too.
700 pounds of beef on the interior DL. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty great. You know, it's crazy too, just random stuff we're talking about here. And that's a great transition talking about D linemen. We'll talk about in just a second. It's how athletic these guys are for how fucking big they are, how athletic they are as well. It's nuts to me that those humans can move that fast, and you already know they're powerful, but they're ballerina-esque sometimes with such a big frame. It's still one of the craziest things to watch.
It really is.
Well, I want to transition because that's a perfect organic segue. Thank you, Vikings Rome. Speaking of interior D linemen.
Speaking of beef.
Yeah. Speaking of beef, former Vikings.
I don't like this trend. Oh, good. Oh, that's where I thought you were going. I thought you were going to talk about hunting beef, and then talk about Twyman. I was going to say, oh no, don't.
Oh God, no, Adam.
No, absolutely not. No, we're not going to talk about that. That's a sad thing. You guys can Google.
It's not that sad. It's actually kind of freaking amazing. The guy got shot 4 times. And he's expected to be ready for camp. He's expected to be ready for preseason.
He got shot in very good places, if that's even a thing. But it's still sad that had to happen. I love the kid's energy and the attitude and the excitement he had for his own career, and that happens. It broke my heart for him, but I'm glad that
we've talked about him on the show about how his major thing is that he just wanted to get drafted so he could get any kind of money to get in there and get his parents and his family out of that community. And he was able to get his mom out. And then he goes back and visits his aunt and gets shot 4 times. It's incredible.
It's absurd.
And now
he's unnecessary.
I've never been shot before. And if I did get shot, I'd probably take some time off.
Yeah. At least give me 2 weeks off work.
But then again, we've also seen pictures of this individual, and he might be made of steel. I'm not sure.
Yeah, he lifted some weights. He lifted some weights over the last 365 days, that's for sure.
A little bit.
He does not skip the gym very often, I'm betting. So yeah, I'm excited to see him make a return.
We're talking about right this second about Jalen Twyman, late round pick this year from the draft. Had a lot of optimism for that kid. Not sure if he was going to make the roster. Maybe he gets on the practice squad, but his attitude and his energy was so fun and infectious that you want to root for him. So we
such
wish
an
him
emotional kid. That call of him getting drafted, if that doesn't get you in the feels a little bit, because he's at the point where he didn't know if he was going to get any money from the NFL draft because he just kept sliding and sliding because he was undersized and because he was underused in college, and he wanted so badly for his community and his family. He was working so hard to provide, and the fact that he got that just is amazing. And I know that I'm that guy that when I watch shows like American Idol and all that, America's Got Talent, I want it to be based on the singing and the talents and not the stories that they tell.
But there are certain people you have to root for.
there are
stories. I know where you're going with it because he's one of those players that you just hear everything he's been through, and the emotional video of him getting drafted is like, how can you not pull for this kid? You really want to see him make the team. I still think probably practice squad, but hey,
and that'd be. I'm sure he would love that.
He's going to get paid plenty to be on practice squad. So.
Even if they put him, even if they end up giving him a medical cut where he gets to keep half his annual salary and all that, I'm sure that he would. That would be amazing for him and his family to be able to set themselves back up somewhere safer and establish a little bit more of a lifestyle that they can live off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we liked him a lot from the little bit that we had got to know about him. So we wish him here at the Purple People Podcast a very
speedy and full recovery.
And hopefully to that not happening again, into better greener pastures, and they'll move on to a new place for sure.
Yeah, and that goes for all Vikings players. Please don't get shot.
Yeah. Try to avoid
and all of our fans in general.
Yeah, if you're a listener to this show, please do what you can to not get shot.
Please avoid that.
PSAs here on the Purple People Pod. Well, we were transitioning earlier. We were talking about a former Viking D lineman, and this is cool. This is a very fun time for all three of us on the show. We all watched this guy on the team, and he was stout. And you could see in the video when he got this call and when he was brought in how humbled he was to get it. But former Vikings defensive lineman Kevin Williams, one half of that Williams wall, is going to be inducted into the Vikings Ring of Honor, and which is pretty great because he's the third defensive tackle that's going to be in there, along with Alan Page and John Randall. So there's some pretty big names.
I've heard of those guys before.
Yeah, you might have heard of them in passing.
Yeah.
Kevin Williams, he was with the Vikings from 2003 to 2013. He's a 26th member of going in the Vikings Ring of Honor, 6-time Pro Bowler. And while he was there, the Vikings defense ranked in the top 10 in yards allowed. Yards allowed per game 4 times there, so from 2006 to 2010. And he was a Pro Bowler in all 5 of those seasons. That's nuts. That's consistency right there. And he's still with the team in a coaching role, which is really cool.
I believe he was all pro first team 5 times as well.
I'm trying to read through these accolades.
Because to me, that is what's the most impressive. Pro Bowl, that's nice.
Pro Bowl
all pro. All pro is where it's at.
Yeah.
171 regular season games. 685 career tackles, 5th most among Viking defensive linemen, and 75.5 tackles for loss, ranked 8th among all Viking players.
Oh, yes.
60 sacks, tied for 9th most in team history, 5 interceptions, 2 of which were returned for touchdowns. That's amazing. 8 forced fumbles and 13 fumble recoveries, 2 of them returned for touchdowns. So, yeah. And I like his quote here, and I'll stop reading off the text, but he was quoted as saying, "My emotions are kind of everywhere," after he got the news. "I don't like surprises, really, so I'm kind of at a loss for words. But the Vikings raised me, a young kid from Oklahoma State and Arkansas. I had to grow up. I bleed purple, and I still cheer for these guys every week." How can you not love a player like that? That's crazy.
And he's a guy that never talked much. If you go back and try to find Kevin Williams quotes, you're not going to find much, because he let his talk on the field do the talking for him. And he never really ran his mouth very much. Personally, I loved when he shared a little bit about his trip to Minnesota when they sprang on him about the Ring of Honor news. And he was touring the Vikings Museum, and he had to stop and get a picture taken with a bronze statues of the Purple People Eaters. I thought that was amazing. He said, I got to get a picture taken with these guys, and had the Minnesota staff take a picture with the statues, and I was like, that's awesome.
I like here, too, scroll up a little bit, because I read it towards the bottom of this article. Williams says he might still have 10 or 12 plays left if you need him.
I was just going to say he looked like he could still play. So if we need depth, is it illegal to bring a Ring of Honor member out and sign him to a contract?
So funny.
Put him on the
now,
field?
Vikings fans, if you're not familiar with the Ring of Honor, when you go to US Bank Stadium, take a look around the bowls of the stadium on the walls right by the parts of each section, and you'll see little plaques devoted to the players. It'll have either like a jersey number, or it'll have like HC for head coach or whatever. But you'll see each one that has their own little markers around the stadium, designating them as part of the Ring of Honor, as part of the going around the balls of the stadium. And I think that's absolutely cool.
I love what Ziggy Wilp said, too. This is really funny. He said, when I became an owner 16 years ago, I was a young owner and you were a young all-pro, talking to Kevin Williams. You were really the first superstar that we had on the team when I was here. And the way you handled yourself and dealt with us owners, with your teammates, and your desire to be the best in the game made us proud to be a young owner. He's like, I'm a little bit older now, but you're still looking good. If you want to try out, the door's open. And he looks over and goes, hey, we have enough cap room? That's cool. They tricked him, which was fun in this video. Apparently, they said this was going to be under the disguise of flying him in for a couple of initiatives and to attend Wednesday's practice. And Rick Spielman's in there, the owners are there, and I'm sure Coach Sim was in there too. And he was just kind of dumbfounded. He's like, I can't believe I'm getting put in the Ring of Honor. So that's really cool.
It's really neat.
Let's take this opportunity to transition a little bit here. Now that Kevin Williams is in the Ring of Honor, who's next?
Jared Allen going in there? He's got to go in there, right?
Oh, Jared Allen's a good choice.
Yeah.
Right around that time frame. Is Pat going to go in there?
I don't know.
I always thought it would have been neat if they would have collectively done Kevin and Pat Williams same time, Vikings Ring of Honor. Like,
a lot of Vikings fans do think of them together.
Yeah.
As one unit.
Yeah.
The same way people think of the Purple People Eaters as being one unit.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought that was really awesome, because groups of players don't get a lot of recognition like that unless they're a really dominant force.
Jared Allen has to go in. I mean, he was half a sack away from breaking NFL record. Yeah. I mean, come on, the dominance he had.
Let me find his stats here. I know, he bounced around at the end of his career, Chicago and then Carolina, and he was drafted by the Chiefs. But I'm trying to, not Jarrett Allen, the NBA player. Come on now, Google, get out of here. 136
Adrian
sacks.
Peterson will be in there. That's no doubt.
Oh, 100%.
Peterson? Yeah.
They'll mend their.
I mean,
if they're not already mended now, and after he's out of the league and he, announces an official retirement, he should come back, sign a one-day deal.
I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Adam, but I don't think other than that rare minute where there's like, hey, all the jersey numbers are currently filled, we have to give someone number 28, and then we took it back. I even forget who that was. I don't think we've had a 28 since Adrian's left the team, right? Like, they've kept that number tucked away, right?
I'm not 100% sure.
I don't think anyone's worn 28 since Adrian left the team. Potentially, I think they're probably... Are we maybe going to retire number 28 too when he goes in? If
that does, you're going to see a lot of salty players that love Randy Moss.
Well, that was going to be the point I was going to make. I mean, because Randy's an all-timer and a Hall of Famer. Adrian's a Hall of Famer, but Randy never won an MVP either. So
I was going to say,
there's a nice little argument there. That's a good debate.
I was going to say. I love Randy Moss. He's my favorite Vikings player of all time. But But if I had to pick between which number to retire, I would go with Adrian Peterson because 2,000 yards MVP, that team was fucking terrible that he did that on too.
And Adrian has essentially every Vikings rushing record.
Yes. Yeah. And when you look at Randy, of course he was dominant in Minnesota, but I don't think his time... you'll agree with me on this one, Adam.
If he had more time in Minnesota, he probably could have passed Chris Carter in stats.
Yes.
But right now, he's still sitting behind Chris Carter.
His time in Minnesota wasn't as long as I would have liked, and he had that really good chunk. He had that really good chunk at the end of his career where he was a Patriot, where you could almost make the argument for him going into the Patriots Ring of Honor as well, too. That's a discussion for their
Just
podcast.
Not the Titans.
Not the Titans.
or the Raiders.
Or the Raiders, or the
49ers. We forgot he was on there. He played in 2 Super Bowls. People forget that, and he lost both of them, that poor guy.
Yeah.
I'm looking here we were talking about Pat Williams, if he was going to go. That's not going to happen. More time spent in Buffalo than Minnesota, only 6 years in Minnesota.
Yeah, he's
total career, only 20 and a half sacks. I mean, Kevin was definitely a better, more dominant counterpart, and with the team longer. But that was a nice little marriage they had from 2005 to 2010.
Antoine Winfield.
Those nose tackles aren't going to get they never get the stats that make them look very good, the nose tackles. So even if his stats don't look good, we know that he was one heck of a player at his position and did his job very, very well.
Yeah, I think you'd make a case for Antoine Winfield going in.
Antoine was awesome. Greg Jennings talked about him. I think I mentioned that on a show not too long ago, talking to Colin Cowherd, who was the one guy that people didn't know in the household name that gave you Fitz as a first name instantly. Gotta love Antoine Winfield. He's calling out plays and talking about where Donald Driver and Greg Jennings are going to be, and what a good player. Yeah, I think the surefire answer here is Jared Allen, and then after that, probably AP. Yeah. I think that's all we got this week, guys. We'll keep you updated once training camp starts. Let's look this up really quick. I don't remember the exact dates for training camp.
Kirk Cousins wins the Super Bowl for Minnesota. Does he go in the Ring of Honor? He'd have to, right? Right?
They want to
come on, guys.
They probably built a statue of him like they did for Nick
That would
Foles,
bring him up to maybe. That would bring him up to maybe.
Right? I mean, we're snake bitten in the Super Bowl department. If like Kirk Cousins is the QB that leads us to the promised land, you fucking build him that Nick Foles like statue out front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the 32 teams, 29 teams will report. There will be unified start date to training camps 2021 of 32, 29 report on Tuesday, July 27th. The Steelers and the Cowboys are the only 2 exceptions. So we've got a couple weeks until training camp starts.
Plenty of time to go over and click on my article about the top 8 battles that are going to be happening during training camp.
And where can we find them, you ask? On these links here, starting with thevikingage.com.
Absolutely. Head on over there and click on some articles, have some fun, leave your comments, and just enjoy being part of a really good Vikings community over there on the Viking Age, where there's always some football discussion going on. I love when you guys join us here. I especially love seeing that we can get comments from Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. So that was really nice to see today. But I also love when I can get some comments on my stuff over at the Viking Age. So please do that. Also, I do usually about an article a month, maybe 2, on undeadwalking.com. Tomorrow morning, I've got an article coming out that talks about all the deaths that happened in the second half of The Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead Season 6. And boy, that was a lot of people dying in those episodes. It was way too many. Too many.
I was at Walmart the other day looking through the movie section. Is there a third Walking Dead TV show?
There is. World Beyond, yes.
World Beyond. I seen World Beyond, and I almost bought it. Is it good?
It's slow going. A lot of the characters are younger, so if you're not willing to watch characters kind of learning about how the zombie apocalypse is kind of evolving around them and not really knowing how to kill walkers and survive the environment, if you're willing to have that patience with these characters and enjoy and sit through maybe 3 or 4 episodes of character building, I started really enjoying it.
See, to me, that sounds good. I would like to check that out.
Meanwhile, though, I know this isn't Walking Dead related, but season 2 of Black Summer just came out on Netflix, and if you're into zombies, that's worth checking out. And then there was a new of the Dead, Army of the Dead, which that's a fun movie if you want to check it out with zombies, but please don't go in there thinking it's going to be a serious zombie movie that follows the zombie rules, because it definitely does not.
I don't quite know if that one lived up to my expectations. It was fine.
The CGI is really bad.
Yeah.
Especially with one fight that involves an actor that was on Fear the Walking Dead, and I laughed during the whole fight. It was that bad. That's not good. That's not good at all, because I typically don't watch action scenes, and the ones I choose to watch are that bad. It's like,
I was disappointed because I wanted to see Dave Batista bomb a zombie.
Will say that I was very impressed with comedian Tig Notaro as her role as the helicopter pilot. I was not expecting that, because I don't ever think I've seen a role like that out of her.
It was especially hard for her because she was the one that was tasked with replacing another actor's performance. So she is entirely green screened and CG'd into that film.
Did you know that, Mr. Smith?
What's that?
They filmed this entire movie with Crystalia in the role. And then when his scandal hit, when his scandal hit, they digitally removed him from the film, recorded her with a green screen, and put her in. And if you were never told that, you would never know.
Wouldn't notice it. Yeah.
I need to know what movie this was. That's crazy. I know exactly what you're talking about. Thankfully, he's slowly getting back in the mix of things, but that's hilarious.
Army of the Dead on Netflix.
Dead. Okay. I think I've seen
and you can also catch me on Twitch every once in a while. I'll be usually browsing a lot of the regular Jackbox rooms, or sometimes I'll have my own room going, or or you can hit me up and we can go play some Jackbox with some other people. I'm always down for any of that. Just let me know. Hit me up on my socials. I'm in Viking Zombie. I'm there on everything. Been recently posting way too many cat photos and now some cat videos. So, I'm expanding my cat horizons here.
You guys were talking about TV shows. I just binged Yellowstone for the last 2 weeks. That's my new favorite out there. I don't know if we have any of those fans in here, but I love Kevin Costner, so that was a fun thing. Now I got to sit around and be bummed out until the new season starts.
I just started watching Kevin Can Fuck Himself, and that show's pretty good.
I've not heard about that one. I will be Googling that very quickly.
I'll just lay out the concept real quick because it's really interesting. It's a sitcom, but the sitcom breaks off whenever the wife leaves the room with her husband or starts having some of her own thoughts, and it turns into a drama. So it's like 2 different shows, because you get the sitcom and you get the drama, and it's really different. It's something you kind of just gotta watch and be like, okay, this is different. I'm waiting to see how it all works out, because so far there's only been 2 episodes, but I've enjoyed it so far.
I'll add it to this infinite list of stuff I got to check out.
Well, Fire Breather, I'm not an anime guy, but as far as adult animation kind of stuff, I will definitely say to check out Invincible, because Robert Kirkman's Invincible on Amazon is absolutely amazing.
Googling it now. All right.
So good.
We're going to promote some more stuff. Sorry for the dead space over here. I'm just Googling stuff. If you want to get some cool photography, prints, and Purple People Podcast merch, we have a guy for that.
Buy stuff, I guess. You can check it out using the link down below on the bottom of the screen. Photography, like we said, Purple People Podcast stuff. Go check it out. You might see something you like.
And on another note, I just got the email today or yesterday, I think it was last night, that Yahoo has announced that they are going to be opening up their Survival League and fantasy football again. So as of right now, I believe we're planning on doing Survival League once again.
Mm-hmm.
I believe so. Hopefully we can get that rolling and have a lot of fun again. I always have fun doing that. This
year, on Kyle Smith's dime, we are sending the winner to Disneyland.
Gary,
New
Indiana.
Jersey.
Someplace in Pennsylvania.
That's funny.
Holiday gas station in Trenton, New Jersey.
To the nearest Wawa for a sandwich on us.
White Castle.
You guys can follow me on stuff. I'm trying to be more active. I have a new guitar coming Thursday. I'm starting to be more involved on old TikTok. I made a Twitch. My Instagram handle, everything is NC, like North Carolina, NC Dog Dude. Follow me on there. I'm going to try this weekend to go live on Twitch for the first time with some new covers, with a brand spanking new guitar, and see what happens there. I like music. I play music for fun and play covers, and yeah, that's kind of what I do in my off time. So if you want to do that, there they are.
Very cool. Thanks again to everyone who took time to join us. I know this is another weird time, but we try to hop on when we can get everyone available, and we were able to get everyone rolled in for this episode, and it was nice to have us here, and everybody who joined us in the chat, everyone who shares our links, everyone who listens later on Spotify or Google Podcasts or wherever you listen, or those that check it out on YouTube later on. I appreciate all of that. It's always great to talk Vikings football, and you guys' questions help us to steer the conversation towards what interests you. So hop on in and we can talk football, because that's what we love, and hopefully what you love as well. From all the guys here, all my cats here, and all the Vikings fans I know, stay classy, Minnesota.